everyone, this is Sean Conaway, lead narrative designer on WWE 2K, and we're excited to be here today for IGN's first look of WWE 2K26's MyRISE, and I'm joined here today by Nathan Craig.
What's up, everybody? Nathan Craig, lead game designer on MyRISE. I'm happy to be here and show you guys what we've been working on this past year.
Yeah, this year's story is called The Comeback, about a wrestler nicknamed the Archetype, who had been on top of WWE previously, but is now returning after a 2-year absence. You know, I've been wanting to tell a comeback story since I started working on my career in MyRISE way back in 2K19, and it's so awesome to finally see this come to life.
Everybody loves a good comeback story.
There's been so many epic comebacks over the years in wrestling, and it really makes for a great setup for a MyRISE story. Yeah, let's take a look at this year's intro video.
WrestleMania is indeed the grandest stage of them all.
It doesn't get any bigger than this.
Champions are crowned, rivalries finished, moments made that will live forever. But what happens the night after can change everything. The Raw after WrestleMania is a night for history-making debuts. Overwhelming reactions. And once-in-a-lifetime showdowns that change the course of the WWE Universe.
We're just getting started. What a night it's gonna be.
It's also a night for monumental returns.
Rusev is back. Race of hell, make a little noise.
Tonight will be no different as we see the long-awaited return of the Archetype, thrust right back into the championship spotlight. The Archetype wants a shot at my client's championship. This is going to be the shortest comeback in WWE history. The Archetype returns tonight on the Raw after Mania.
Let's go. The Archetype is back. Before we move forward, there are going to be some minor spoilers ahead, so now you know.
This year's MyRISE is a return to 2 separate men's and women's division experiences after we had the 2K25 co-story of Mutiny. Jordynne Grace and Bron are our main antagonists as Paul Heyman's champions. And you can choose the women's division or the men's division. Today, we're going to be previewing the women's division.
All right. And just so everybody knows, those divisions do have separate rewards, so it's always worth playing both.
Custom casual attire is back, as we can see here, along with some really cool two-tone hair. That's a new feature in CAS. Looks great. The Archetype's feed is blowing up for their big return. You might notice this is a new backstage. We actually have 3 different backstages. We're trying to replicate, how it feels touring around in WWE. You don't always see the same backstage on a weekly basis. There you see Adam Pearce, who plays a key role in this year's story, not only as the Raw GM, but also as a friend and moral compass for the player. That's right, for the first time since 2K22, there are major fan favorite and rule breaker decision points and story branches. Adam, of course, will try to steer the player to do the right thing whenever possible.
So many wrestling games continue to explore what it means to be with the fans or not, and we're continuing that tradition and finding new ground.
This is a cool decision point here. It's not going to drastically alter your story, but the player gets to decide, where have I been for 2 years? Was I off in Hollywood, making movies? Was I spending time with my family? Was I out with an injury that I was rehabbing? Today we're going to make the choice that the player was off in Hollywood.
And people will remember.
Yeah, you're going to hear other characters react to that decision throughout the entire story.
Not an easy first match back.
Adam was great on VO, by the way, as always.
If it were up to me, I would have given you a warm-up. I'm pulling for you. But Jordynne Grace, she's the real deal.
And here's our cover star, CM Punk, who played a major part in last year's Mutiny story.
What's it been? 10, 12 years?
Something like that.
CM Punk had a smaller cameo role in this year's MyRISE. We kind of wanted to give him a break after the 3 to 4 hours of voiceover he did on 2K25. I'm mostly kidding, Nathan, but we do actually take that into consideration each year. If a superstar has a major role, we don't often want to go back to them necessarily the next year just to give them a break, give the story a break, and freshen things up.
There's so many factors that go into making this story mode every year.
We also found time to watch that movie you starred in as, what was it, Cop number 6?
It was actually
And there
a
you see
top
CM
with
Punk
earrings.
commenting on the player's
In any
Hollywood
event,
background.
I
There's
have a
some
feeling
fun
you'll pick
banter
up
about
right where you left off.
being a cop in a
Once that
movie, which is
Archetype
funny
music
because
hits,
CM
they
Punk
see you
has
out there with your
had
old
some
familiar
nice
look.
roles
They'll be
lately
chanting your name, and
playing
you'll
a
be
cop,
more
so
than
it's
ready to
kind of
take
art
care of
imitating
business.
life there.
Why change what always works?
Love to see it.
right?
Change can be good. Not saying you need to start a mutiny or anything, but at the same time, you don't want to rely on old habits too much.
And there he says, well, you don't need to
No,
start a
I'm not one of
mutiny.
your
That's just a fun
NXT
little
kids, right?
Easter egg reference
I
to
can
last year's
handle
mutiny
this.
story.
Yeah. Good luck out there.
Let's talk to the Oracle himself, Paul Heyman. It was a blast recording and working with Paul this year. He recorded at WWE headquarters for probably the better part
Good
of
to see you too,
3 to 4
Paul.
hours. He's a major part
Not
of this
sure
year's
about
story.
what.
We're going to find out here, Nathan, a key story point that before the player left WWE on their 2-year hiatus, Heyman offered them the chance to be the next Paul Heyman client, and they actually turned him down. So that's a big reason that Heyman is going to be a thorn in the player's side throughout this year's story.
Heyman will not forget.
I'm not sure.
Yeah, Paul had a smaller role back in 2K20's My Career. For anyone who remembered that, he was sort of the gatekeeper and the player finding The Undertaker. But this is his biggest role yet in a My Career or MyRISE. Again, I worked with Paul going on 20 years ago now, back in WWE on the creative team when he was the lead writer of SmackDown. And I think that really helped in our recording process this year. I think there was a level of trust there with the material we had written for him. And like I said, Paul knocked it out of the park. He did a great job. He's definitely one of the major stars, if not the major star of this year's MyRISE. And there you see Paul referencing, again, why you were gone from WWE. He's ripping on the fact that you were off in Hollywood in some garbage action sequel where you were the first schmuck to die.
Didn't know.
You might notice here too the gestures that Paul Heyman is doing. These were specific animations we shot for Heyman at MoCap this year, since he moves in such a unique way. I feel little touches like that really go a long way in helping our story come to life.
Definitely. Not just this mode as well. Our character team, our audio team, everybody works hard to make that likeness as close as we can get.
And that's not a prediction. That's a spoiler.
Let's go take on Jordynne Grace. Oh, hey, those custom Trons. Let's go.
Yeah, the Archetype has returned.
Looks like we have a new UI element there. What does that do, Sean?
Oh, that's a really cool new thing that I've been playing around with, Nathan. You get to do some self-expression on your way to the ring. You could have pyro that erupts on the stage. You could have pyro in the ring. You can do some fan favorite and rule breaker mannerisms on your way. It's a really fun, interactive way to mix up your typical entrance.
We continue to try to make entrances something great to watch, but also something fun to interact with.
And I don't want everyone to panic out there. You will notice the player is wearing special Archetype gear with an Archetype entrance and Archetype Trons, music, etc. But that's only going to be for this match. Where the story's headed is the player can't keep doing the same thing if they want to find success on their comeback. They need to reinvent themselves. They need to come out with new gear, new music, new entrance, new Trons. But don't worry, this isn't a redo of the lock. This is only going to be for one match.
We don't want to lock you into any persona.
By the way, you might be hearing Booker T and Wade Barrett for the first time, who are new additions to our commentary team for the entire game. It's just really cool to hear some new voices and flavor across our story. They did a great job this year.
You know, it can be tempting to skip entrances after the first few times you watch one, but in MyRISE, we actually really reward players if they can hang around and watch the whole thing, which is a lot easier to do now with all these awesome interactive entrance features.
That's right, Nathan. We have scripted commentary for all of our matches in MyRISE, whether that be entrances, match start commentary, victory, losses. Really pay attention to those lines because there's some fun Easter eggs there. I just want to say how cool it is that we're featuring Jordynne Grace, by the way. Like, she's had quite the rise, pun intended, as of late. We had the pleasure of working with Jordynne. She actually did mocap for 2K25 for the Mutiny story. And, you know, just a year later, now she's the featured rival in the women's division story. It's just really cool to see her success. So we wanted to have the Archetype looking strong here at the start of the match, but that's quickly going to take a turn, as you're about to see.
Of course, I mean, Jordynne's a juggernaut.
Yeah, she was great for a lot of reasons, but when it came time to figure out what to do for this scene, she has so many cool moves to utilize. She made our jobs a lot easier.
This could be it.
This is over.
So the Archetype fails in their comeback match. And this, of course, will set the story in motion for their big comeback.
With relative ease.
This was not the comeback the Archetype had hoped for, to say the least.
Paul's always got to rub it in.
So when we were writing this scene, we wanted a big exclamation point at the end, and you're about to see it right here. So it's not only that the player just lost the match, they took a huge gorilla press to the outside, and we wanted to end the scene with them really in rough shape down at the ground, looking up to Heyman and his champion Jordynne Grace. That's all intentional. The positioning of the characters here and the camera angles, really trying to show that the player has a long road ahead of them if they truly want to make this comeback succeed.
Well, yeah, I mean, you got to fall into the hole to get out of it.
We are now joined by
So new this year, we have press conferences, which is a really cool part of this year's mode. It's a great opportunity for the player to express themselves via choices. There were a lot of memorable moments, of course, this past year with press conferences in WWE. If you think about John Cena on his farewell tour when he, put R-Truth through the table. So that's something we wanted to capture in this year's MyRISE. So what you're seeing here are what we call flavor choices on MyRISE. They don't really necessarily branch your story one way or the other, but in this instance, it's a way for the user to start to explore whether they want to be a fan favorite or a rule breaker wrestler on their MyRISE story. And that's foreshadowing the big choice at the end of this scene where they will make that branching decision. It's a good opportunity for the user to sort of explore which direction they want to go, but not necessarily have to commit right in the moment.
Oh, here we go.
Those big dramatic moments in this year's MyRISE are some of my favorite parts of the mode. I think in games especially, people get caught up in just going down the morally good route, or in this case, the for the fans route, but part of wrestling is exploring that darker side. I mean, look what happened when Cena did it. And in this year's MyRISE especially, those rule breaker branches are awesome.
What has that person ever accomplished? Were they ever a WWE Women's Champion? They say, write what you know. So I assume they've expanded their waistline eating a lot of fast food. Congrats on that achievement.
Just like those Paul Heyman ones I mentioned earlier, we shot all new press conference gestures for the player to be seated in this position.
Yeah, surprisingly, sitting down in a video game is not easy to do, contrary to popular belief.
With how your night turned out, are you going to continue your comeback? Or was this just a one-time appearance and you'll be headed back to Hollywood?
So here's our first major fan favorite or rule breaker decision branch. And I just want to mention, today we're going to explore the start of the rule breaker storyline, but you're not locked into this decision. You will have the opportunity throughout the story to change alignment. You could either play the story entirely as a fan favorite, you could play as a rule breaker, or you could flip-flop back and forth. It's up to you.
When I'm playing MyRISE, I like to kind of go hard and fast on one lane, but to do kind of a turn at the end, because characters realize the consistency and continuity of your character. They respond to it, and it makes it feel alive, like they've been paying attention to me the whole time.
Yeah, and I just want to emphasize the fan favorite and rule breaker paths are drastically different. You're going to get completely different storylines, unlockables. So I would encourage everyone to play both paths between men's and women's. Really, you can get a lot of replayability this year.
Definitely. You may even see some familiar faces.
In my life, try to tear me down so they can feel better about their miserable lives. So no, this comeback isn't over. It's just getting started. And I'm gonna do whatever it takes to get back to the top and take back what's mine. And if you don't like that, you can go to hell.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Archetype.
So if we had chosen fan favorite, we would not walk out and slap the microphone over. That's the level of detail we're talking about and unique content that you get based on your decisions.
The story might be done with that Archetype gear, but using the Create suite, I mean, you can really go in there, modify it, add some sick textures, colors, changes, and really make that part your own.
So here we are headed down the rule breaker path at the Archetypes Wrestling School. And you might notice that's Ava Moreno returning to MyRISE. It's really fun that we get to bring back these characters from time to time. On the men's story, you're going to encounter Hector Flores in a similar role. Nathan, I think this is the first time we've had a player character have their own wrestling school as well, right?
I think you're right. And not only that, players will eventually be able to unlock this arena and use it for whatever they want.
Yeah, minor spoiler, there's actually 2 versions of this arena that you'll eventually unlock, but only if you go down this rule breaker path.
Yeah, both branches are really distinct in so many ways.
Come on, let's go.
You'll even notice a championship belt on the background on the wall. That's a championship that the player won in their first run in WWE. And speaking of returning familiar faces, you may recognize the voice of our female player character from 2K22. It was great to have Jeannie back.
Yeah, we're getting quite the pantheon of my players as we keep making this mode.
Do I look like I'm finished? Do I look buried? Huh? I know I haven't been here much, but now that I am, there's going to be some tough lessons. Because I finally realized that to make it to the top, you have to be merciless, relentless. Are you ready for that? Who's next? Come on!
Looks like most everybody here just couldn't hang. I wonder who's left.
No, and you may recognize some of those other characters from GM mode. We tend to borrow GM characters on an annual basis. They really help fill out our world when we need some extra bodies.
That cross-pollination of modes is some of my favorite parts of our game, that connective tissue that makes it feel like one big world.
Justyne's niece a few years back.
So here we're going to get into some backstory and find out what Moreno's been up to since the last time we saw her.
Moreno.
Just Moreno now. The Rock's kid showed up in NXT and they took my first name and
she's been out of WWE for a few years.
Not to renew my contract.
And now she's trying to fight her way back on her own comeback journey, just like the player.
Is that what you did?
What's interesting, Nathan, is the player's alignment decision actually affects Moreno's as well.
Did that trigger
if you go down the rule breaker path, Moreno will follow in your footsteps and also become a rule breaker. But if you're on the fan favorite side of things, Moreno will be a fan favorite wrestler as well.
They're kind of a protege of sorts.
Yeah, definitely.
I got pretty good at both.
That right? So what the hell are you doing here?
Hear me out.
So what Moreno's pitching to the player here is like, look, you came out for that first match in your same old Archetype gear, same music, same entrance. Moreno's saying if you're going to really succeed in this comeback, you need to reinvent yourself. And so she's offering to help the player by going out on the indie scene for a bit to really get down and dirty and reinvent themselves.
And whenever they are reinventing themselves, like, people should make custom victories, custom entrances. It can be daunting, but it's so satisfying when you really make your my player your own.
Or you could get out there
and that shovel may come back. I don't want to spoil anything too big, but you can imagine if you're a rule breaker and someone delivers a shovel to you to try to rub it in your face, you may end up using that to get some revenge later in your journey.
Let them know.
It is WWE after all. And look at that, we already unlocked Moreno as a playable character.
Nathan, can you talk about what this new Rise match feature is that we're seeing here?
Absolutely. So this new icon when you're in a hub kind of shows a new reworked feature we have. Last year we had live event matches. This year we've rebranded them as Rise matches, but it's more than just a new word for the same thing. From the ground up, we've really tried to look at that flow and find a way to give players story, but also get them in the ring that much quicker. So this year, engaging with Rise matches is going to be the mechanism that gets you more towards those big story beats, but you'll still find story amongst the Rise matches, whether it's in the UI, who you're fighting, the types of matches you have, the quest givers. Everybody's going to pay attention to where you're at in our story. For example, here we have our Rise match screen. It might seem like a small detail, but being able to preview your opponent and what they look like before you go in is a big shift from kind of the flow of doing these. As you win matches, you'll get rebooks, which allow you to tell your quest giver, no, I don't want that. And they'll respond by giving you a different match. Definitely use that rebook feature. You might find some fun surprises in these Rise match loops.
You might have noticed in the Rise match kickoff screen with Tavish that it said 0 out of 12 stars. And so what that means is we've just arrived in this section of the story, and our goal is to reach 12 or more stars to advance in the main path. So you'll see those star counts update as you participate in more Rise matches. Many times, you'll have the opportunity to earn more than 12 stars if you want. You can stay and wrestle more matches in this section. It's up to you if you want to advance. Sometimes, however, once you reach that star count, we will advance you in the main path automatically.
As you're playing Rise matches, all of them give you attribute points. It's kind of a new way for you to get that currency to make yourself that much stronger. So when you're hanging back, at least you're always working towards that goal.
So we talked about earning stars and how that can progress you through the main path story. But another really cool thing is as you're earning these stars, you can accrue unique rewards.
Yeah, the best part is when you earn a star, the game remembers, and you'll never unearn a star as far as this screen's concerned. So all the playthroughs you do are constantly making progress towards this rewards track.
So you'll have the opportunity here to earn arenas, characters, my faction cards, cast parts, and Nathan, these are some characters we've seen before, but also some brand new original ones as well.
Yeah, Sean, we have a balance of familiar MyRISE characters. We kind of have our wacky characters at the end of the rewards track, but sprinkled throughout the way, we have just generally appealing superstars that every wrestling fan wants. I mean, look at this retro CM Punk.
Yeah, the CM Punk retro. I don't think this is a spoiler. We've seen him in some other trailers. But this is a really cool tie-in to our cover star showcase mode. You won't get this character in showcase. This is exclusive to the MyRISE star reward track.
Last year's Global Star Rewards track was kind of a heavy grind, so we've tried to shorten this a bit while still providing a challenge.
Yeah, there is a scenario, Nathan. It's up to the user. If they wanted to hang back and just play tons and tons of Rise matches in this section and really make their character strong to set themselves up for success the rest of the story, they could do that if they want. Or you can advance as soon as you've met that star threshold.
Exactly. Are you a speedrunner or a grinder? It's all up to you.
Someone with your reputation could become one of the great Gaijin. Another Vader, AJ Styles, or Terry Funk.
So in this section of the story, we're at an airport. We can go to Mexico, Japan, the UK to compete in Rise matches. And you'll actually, if you hit that rebook button enough, or if you just get lucky the first time, you might land on a surprise opponent. Nathan, it's possible to get an extra bonus when you face a surprise opponent, right?
You do. It's one of the few places you can earn a % bonus reward, which sounds like math, and who likes to do math, but getting all those % bonus rewards is the only way you can get your MyPlayer up to 100 OVR. It's quite a grind and you really have to look around for it, but those that want a challenge, I suggest getting 100 plus OVR run.
All right, we had that amazing match in Japan. We've earned more than 12 stars, and now we see a different icon appear next to Moreno's name.
That icon denotes that the player can move forward if they want. This particular airport hub is an example of where the player gets to choose to move forward with the main story or hang back and grind Rise matches.
Jordynne, you haven't faced anyone who's been in a WWE ring in ages.
If you somehow manage to make it all the way to the end of the story, there's one major final decision that Paul Heyman will present you with that will unlock a whole other section of the mode. You'll have the opportunity there to continue competing in Rise matches and earning Rise match stars and rewards.
Rise up to the challenge, finish the mode, and find out what happens after.
Take that chance. You can keep hitting up those international promotions, or you can level up and fight me, getting you one step closer to Jordynne.
I've gotten enough frequent flyer miles. You want a funeral? Here it comes.
So as Moreno challenges us to step in the ring, we're going to wrap things up here, but we want to give you one more sneak peek of where this rule breaker storyline might be headed.
What the hell? That's the Archetype! And is that Archetype? No! Damn it!
Dupree's in a lot of pain.
I am back, and I am just getting started!
That's right, we're back, and we're just getting started. Thanks again for joining us on IGN's first look at MyRISE.
We hope everybody enjoyed what they saw, and we'll see you in March.